Hello, welcome to the Inner Sanctuary. This is the first in our podcast series on Can I Be a Christian If? I'm Meg and this is Jess. Jess, how's your week been?
It's been alright. It's been full of coffee.
Coffee, lots of coffee.
Lots and lots of
I'm
coffee.
not a coffee drinker.
I can't understand how you can survive being... Okay,
Biscuits.
yeah, chocolate.
It's the biscuits.
Sure.
It's always the biscuits. Me and you are quite similar at home, aren't we? We've got kids, all boys,
Yes.
and a dog and a husband.
Yes.
Your dog's a boy as well, actually, isn't he?
My dog is a boy. I am
We are
well and
surrounded.
truly outnumbered.
Yeah, me too. It's a fun life we live. Anyway, today's question, can I be a Christian if I don't go to church? Now we found that was the top searched question under Can I Be a Christian If, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, yeah. On our social media pages when we floated the question out there, and also on Google. So it is definitely the most asked question about Christian life.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that it's not what we would have expected. It's when we went through what we thought the topic should be, this wasn't one that we picked out. And I think the phrasing is interesting. Can I be a Christian if I don't go to church?
Yeah.
And there are lots of questions that come from that. What do you think church is? And why do you think people go to church? And what does it mean to go to church? And I guess the question we want to ask back is why not go to church?
Yeah.
The pandemic has shown us that being alone and being isolated is no good for anybody's mental health. So why not go to church and be with people and belong with people and have people who you can celebrate with and have people that you can cry with and have people who share the same interests as you. So my question, is really why not go to church? Why not be part of something like that?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. And I think, as you say, the pandemic, we have heard more than ever about how we're better together and how loneliness has escalated so much. So when you're a part of anything, I suppose, when you have a shared interest, you like sharing that interest with other people of a like mind. And you can't help but wonder, is this a trust issue? Are people in a place where actually they don't trust the church? But I think it's really important that we establish what the church is, really, isn't it? And that's something that we've obviously been talking about and kind of grappling with within our own personal journeys of faith as well.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting that both of us were brought up in church, going to church every Sunday, and yet both of us still are able to have a very long discussion about what actually is church and why do we go to church, and it's actually maybe not as simple as we thought it was. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think we both have landed, physically speaking, in very different church environments, haven't we, really? So my church is very, very small and is very much focused on being in each other's homes and is very outward facing into the community. And your church is super exciting.
Yeah, my church is big flashy lights and smoke machines and a phenomenal worship band that play every week, and we get free Freddos, which is a big pull for me, and they just put on great events where people come and have a really great time and meet Christians and realise that we're all kind of the same, and they're both churches and they're both adequate and good expressions of church. But they're very different. They
are very different. And I wonder if maybe the media portrayal of church sort of maybe plays into that reluctance of, well, actually, I do have a bit of a faith, I think. I do want to know more about Jesus, but am I going to be going to an environment where I don't fit in? Am I going to be going to an environment where people are going to judge me or ask questions about me that I'm not comfortable answering? And is it going to be this big, irrelevant, scary, smelly building? Which neither of our churches look or feel like that. And I think it's a wonderful thing, isn't it, that like in the Bible it says about how we're like a body, so each of us are different, and church kind of looks like that too, doesn't it? Like each church is different and can be a different expression. So I would say, it doesn't matter if you're a person who maybe is quieter or a person who is more leery and loves the big flashy stuff. There will be a church family, because that's what it is, isn't it? It's a family out there that will be able to meet you where you are.
Yeah, because ultimately it is about belonging, which I think I said at the beginning. It's about being part of, like you said, a family, and having people who support you and having people who just get you. Like that feeling when you find someone who is like you and you're like, oh, you just really get me.
Yeah.
And there are people for all people in churches, and you will find a church where the people there get you, and they really get who you are, and your likes and your dislikes, and what really is deep inside you. They'll understand that, and they'll love and accept that.
Yeah. Do you think, though, that there might be people who have been really hurt by the church, and actually the reason they don't want to go to church is because they have been hurt, that there is a past experience in their life, or maybe something even in the right now that they're struggling with, that they feel like this is not something that I'm going to be accepted for in church, or this is something that, you know, just fear almost of rejection?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that, you know, on a really basic level, people in church are people, and people hurt other people all the time, even Christians. And I'm sure both of us could tell stories of times where people in churches have hurt us. And that's never nice, and it's never okay to be hurt by someone else. But I think the importance is the difference between the people in the church and the church itself. But even that, you know, church historically has done stuff that has hurt whole people groups, you know, whole families, whole societal groups, and you know, that's hard to understand sometimes. It's hard to process, and there will be people out there who are going, do you know what, I just don't believe the church will accept me because of what I believe, or who I am, or how I dress. I think it's really interesting as well, isn't it? I always one of my favourite bits in the Bible is just before where Jesus is about to kind of be led off and begin the process of the crucifixion, and he prays, and it's kind of like the last big prayer that we have from Jesus, and he spends the last portion of that prayer praying for the church that would exist throughout the rest of time. And the main theme of that prayer is oneness, isn't it? And unity. And it really strikes me how he would have prayed that prayer before the church as we know it ever even existed. So he knew that it was going to be hard. He knew that it was going to be hard for people, like you say, people who are broken and come with their baggage and are all working through different things. It's going to be really tough for us to unite. And I find like a bit of solace in that, actually, that like Jesus prayed for us, that he prayed that we would find that love for one another. But the fact that he prayed it just goes to show that it's not going to be easy. And I mean, Jesus is our great example for this, isn't he? You know, the part of the point of being a Christian is to be Jesus in the world today, and to live a life like Jesus. And so when we look at Jesus in the Bible and we see how he treated people, how he accepted all people, even the people that society was casting out, you know, that's how we as a church should be. You know, for us who do go to church, that's how we need to accept other people. And you know, if you are one of those people who feels not accepted by church, then you need to know that Jesus wants to accept you. Like, Jesus absolutely accepts all people.
That's good.
And it's not on you if you feel the church hasn't accepted you. There is a church out there that will accept you. I believe there is anyway.
And I think like what you said then about Jesus being the ultimate example is so important. And even when you look at, you know, we sort of talk about the disciples, and I think in some ways as time has gone on, and particularly how we talk about things in like a biblical context or whatever it is, it sounds really stuffy, the word disciples, but they were his friends, weren't they? They were his main supporters, and they were part of a wider group that included women and all sorts of other people. But this group of blokes who he sort of recruited were all entirely different to one another, and there were tensions there. It's not like he went and chose all of like the boffins who were going to come and all agree on everything. And you know, you think, God, he again is setting an example to show us like this is what community looks like. It looks like disagreement, and it looks like loving each other through the disagreement.
I think love is so key as well. Like, I love within the disciples there's that story, isn't there, where they are arguing about who is going to be the greatest. And Jesus kind of shuts them down in a really loving way. But also Jesus always loved before and beyond kind of the cultural rules that the religious leaders had set in place. So there's that story of him healing a crippled man, and the leaders are like, well, you can't do that, we have rules and it's not allowed to be done on this day. And Jesus says, well, what's more important, to love and heal this man or to obey these rules that you've put in place. And
Yeah.
I think society often looks at church and says, oh, well, there are rules about what you can do in church and who you can be in church. It's like, well, no, Jesus loves beyond the rules.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't care whether you look like the kind of person who you think should be in church.
Yeah.
Jesus loves you anyway, and love really underpins it all and should underpin how we live in church community.
Yeah, and one of the verses that came to mind as we were thinking about this question was it's in the book of Ephesians, which is in the New Testament, and it's in Ephesians chapter 4 and it's verse 2, and it says, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, accepting one another in love. And you know, being humble's hard, being gentle's hard, especially when you don't agree, and being patient is really, really hard. And through all of that should lead us to a place of accepting one another in love. And I just think that it's so important that we can try and keep at the forefront of our minds that to love your neighbour as yourself means being patient with them, because I need people to be patient with me. I need people to be gentle with me. And I need people to bear with me, because I know I'm hard work. And I know that I can be a lot, and I know that I can be selfish. And it's that two-way street, isn't it, of saying, actually, I've received so much love from Jesus that I want to be able to bear with people in the way that Jesus bears with me, and hope that they will bear with me in that way as well. And that's what church should look like, shouldn't it?
Absolutely. I wonder, do you think there's other people who feel like they can't come to church because they can't love and accept themselves? Because, you know, it's easy sometimes to say love someone else. Sometimes the hardest thing is to love yourself. And I reckon there are people out there who think, I can't go to church because there is no way that God can love me, can accept me, because I have done so much stuff that he would hate, so much stuff that I hate. What would you say to those people?
Oh, it just makes me really sad, that does. And I think, you know, I've had friends in similar situations who have just agonised at the thought of being part of a family, because, well, lots of different reasons, but usually that they've been hurt by family before, and that has really demoralised them and has affected, like you say, how they view themselves. And I think that in life there are lies that we're told, and that comes to us through people, it comes to us through media, it comes to us through strangers sometimes as well. And I think finding the truth amidst the lies and all of the noise can be really, really difficult. I think we've obviously talked a lot about Jesus today, and Jesus, you know, he says that he is the truth, like he is the truth and life. And when we can acknowledge truth, then we can understand what real living is. So I would just say, look to Jesus, like believe in him, because he is truth. Not even, you can't trust yourself, can you, sometimes? But we can always trust him. And Jesus, I mean, he is just incredible. But I was thinking, when we were praying for this, I was thinking about Peter. Now, Peter was one of those disciples that you talked about. He was like almost Jesus' right-hand man through a lot of it. He was passionate, and he did all sorts of things because he believed in who Jesus was. And then when Jesus was on the cross, he felt afraid. He did some stuff that he regrets. He pretended he didn't know Jesus. And then he was hiding in shame. He didn't want to come back to his friends. He didn't want to come back to the other disciples because he was so ashamed of what he'd done. But when Jesus finds him, Jesus doesn't reprimand him. Jesus doesn't say, you are awful. I can't believe you denied me. Have you not seen what I've done? Jesus just sits with him and cooks him breakfast and is just love with Peter, because that's who Jesus is. He loves Peter, he loves me, he loves you, he loves everybody. And he doesn't want Peter or us to feel that shame. He wants us to feel the love of being with Jesus. And that's really what being in church should be as well. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important for us to just stress again that even just like, I don't go to church, like that's not even a thing. You don't go to church, like you are church. You are. I don't say like I go to my family. You don't know. I am a part of my family. So if you're someone who is on a journey trying to figure out who this Jesus person is to you, and if you have accepted that he is someone that you want to get to know, you are church. Like you are part of the church already. You don't have to go anywhere for that to be any more real. But being with those people who will be your family is only going to serve you well as you go on this crazy journey of faith.
Absolutely. I think that's great. I think that probably is enough for today.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll be back.
We will.
With another question.
Yes.
Do get in touch if you can think of a reason why can I be a Christian if you can finish that question for us and you'd like us to discuss something, do let us know. But for now, we'll say bye.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.